So I think in all the years that I've worked with people with borderline, there's one thing about them that probably troubles me even more than their troubling parenting tactics. Troubles me more than their troubling co-parenting, a parental alienation efforts, and and I'm gonna tell you exactly what that is. But first, if you want to ask me a viewer question, submit a question just in general. I will do my best to answer it. If you like my content, you want to support my content, you can really help me keep this going. You can really enable me to keep good free content coming by hitting the tip jar. All the links are in the description below. You can also check out my other channel, which is called Wisdom and Brews. A little bit more lighthearted stuff, but I'm kind of tweaking it a little bit to try and get the best content on there that I can. So anyways, let's get into this, okay? Borderline personality disorder, BPD. Yeah, I really struggle with their parental alienation stuff. I really struggle with it. But I think probably the thing that I find to be the most profoundly troubling and discouraging and tragic about borderline personality disorder is their seeming propensity and their inability to help themselves in terms of basically kind of destroying every single good thing in their life. They can't seem to help it. It's like you can't stop a dog from chasing cars. I actually don't see dogs chase cars these days, but people are pretty good, at least in my neck of the woods, at kind of keeping their dogs from roaming around. Let's a cat. Cats they can't help themselves. They have to try and catch the birds. And I'd even heard recently that like house cats murdered like a lot of birds, and they can't help themselves. It's just how they're built. If there's a bird, they're trying to catch it, whether they're hungry or not. That's just how they're wired, right? And what's troubling about borderline is they cannot seem to stop themselves from destroying every last bit of good in their lives. And even like secondhand, like they even destroy, seemingly can't seem to help themselves or stop themselves from destroying the good things in their children's lives. And it's almost like if their kids have friends, I've seen them jealous and threatened by their children's friendships and the perception that their children will abandon them for somebody else, and so they undermine those friendships. And just if a child is creating an identity or a talent, following a talent, maybe a kid is artistic, maybe a kid is naturally musical. Often I find that the borderline parent is threatened that their child is developing an identity or developing a talent or having a personal strength, and is critical of them, is down on them, is hard on them, and seems to discourage them. And before you know it, the kid is giving up the good things in their lives because there's such a negative association with it. It's just anchored with negativity. I've seen these kids where they can't do anything without hating themselves over it. It's brutal. It's tragic. So what I've seen is with borderline, it's like they chase off the friends. They completely alienate the friends. Years ago, I heard a story about someone who had borderline, and she moved in with a friend. They had agreed, like, hey, let's get a place together. They both needed a roommate, and they're like, hey, let's get a place together. And apparently, like 3 days after moving in, the roommate, the friend of the person who had borderline, one day found a strange note that just said, I'm having second thoughts about this. And their work schedules were off, so they didn't see each other much. And then the next day, she comes home, all the stuff is gone. She had completely moved out. She came home to an apartment with nothing. She had no place to sit, no place to sleep, no dishes, no silverware, nothing, and no explanation. And then a week or so later, her now ex-roommate is sending her a text message saying, hey, you owe me money for the security deposit. Okay, they have a tendency to destroy their jobs and torpedo and undermine their jobs. They cannot seem to help themselves from going after the people in the workplace. They perceive that they're being persecuted at work, and so they are attacked when they believe they're defending themselves. And to the core, if we peel back the layers on this onion, the sad truth is too that they don't believe that they're deserving of anything, and anything that good comes their way, they perceive it as a potentially painful experience in the waiting. And I really believe that's why they destroy the good things in their life, is that anything good that comes along is now a potential painful situation. They destroy it, and then it self-fulfills. It's painful because they destroyed it, and it's really tragic. But they also destroy. They have a tendency to put a torpedo right in the middle of even trying to get better. I've heard so many of them say, I don't want to get better. Why? Because it will hurt. It's painful. And it's like, you're already in pain. It doesn't really get much worse than this. Emotionally, it actually doesn't. Emotionally, does not get worse than this. You are at the peak. This is as bad as it gets. But they will sabotage and undermine and ruin their own treatment. They could get a great therapist and split the therapist and blow up at the therapist and tell them that they hate them and this and that and the other, and burn the bridge, and it becomes self-fulfilling again. And it's tragic. It's tragic to watch this mental illness just like systematically almost just destroy every last bit of good in their own lives. And so what do we do? Good question. Good question. I don't know. I mean, in my opinion, we do a very poor job in society as identifying this as a mental illness. I cannot begin to tell you how many people have discouraged me or scolded me online because I diagnose people with borderline, and it's just like, how on earth are we supposed to help a problem or an issue if we pretend that it doesn't exist? But I've worked in community mental health long enough to know that regardless of how hard we work or how much good work we do, there will always be people that will undermine us. I don't understand their motivation. But ultimately, I think it has to do with the collective efforts of people to stand up together and just say, hey, we've had enough. Enough is enough. Family court system, I really look forward to the day when there are enough people that have had it and we create some sort of family court reform. So anyways, those are some of my thoughts on BPD or borderline in terms of the probably the most challenging and troubling thing that I see about that particular mental illness. I was planning on recording more videos. I have to get to work. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.